Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live and proudly from the Hesselson studio on Marcus Street in Corning. Welcome to day number 2 of the government shutdown. How much has your life been affected thus far? That is the question to kick off the program this morning. I do have a couple of viewer comments that we're going to get to later on in the broadcast in the 7 o'clock hour. We're going to talk to our friends at the Alzheimer's Association. We're doing the walk again this year, folks. I'm looking forward to it. We'll tell you all about it. Last year, well, I'll show it during the interview, but last year, even receiving an award, we raised so much because of the great viewers in this audience. As of right now, the team is myself and Elisa. You know Elisa. Who has been on the show back in the day with Sylvia, her foreign exchange student. That is the team right now. We've got a couple people that just haven't added yet. But it's coming right up. So that's why I want to talk with the Alzheimer's Association in the 7 o'clock hour. We have a busy rest of the week. We're going to be talking about the Wine Glass Marathon tomorrow. There's a change in our lineup. I believe Monday we're talking with Rotary, and then we have a special guest on Tuesday. I'll tell you about it a little bit later on. All right. Enough of the housekeeping, I know. Let's get to viewer comments. First of all, to the viewer that sent me the amazing picture from the intersection of Clements Center and 5th, thank you. I am going to show that picture, but I want to wait just a little bit till we all get settled in because it is amazing. I believe I know the person who put that up, and I'm excited to show it. So I hope you don't mind. We're not going to kick off the program with that. We're going to show it just a little bit later on. Comment from a viewer, rest in peace, Jane Goodall. Your life's work was inspirational, especially given that you became a member of a guerrilla clan. Now, how that must have felt to have been so accepted. Yes, Jane Goodall, passing away at the age of 91 years old. Her death while on a speaking tour was confirmed by Jane Goodall Institute, whose U.S. headquarters are in Washington, D.C. The British-born Dr. Goodall was 29 in the summer of 1963 when National Geographic magazine published her 7,500-word, 37-page account of the lives of primates she had observed. An amazing life story. So thank you for mentioning that. Oh, look at that. Also, a viewer asked about the lockdown at Joint Base McGuire, Dix, and Lakehurst. We had not reported on that, but I'm glad that you brought that up. What we're learning now is a government employee is being accused of falsely reporting an active shooter that caused that lockdown. Officials say one person is in custody for a false report of an active shooter at the Joint Base McGuire, Dix, Lakehurst on Tuesday. The Joint Base was placed on lockdown just before 11 a.m. for reports of an active shooter. Officials instructed those on base to remain inside, and anyone outside should take cover. The McGuire and Fort Dix section of the base were given the all-clear a short time later, and the Lakehurst campus was cleared a few minutes after that. No active shooter threat was ultimately found, and the base returned to normal operations just before noon. So now it looks as if a government employee is being accused of falsely reporting it. U.S. Attorney Alina Habab reported on Tuesday night that a civilian employee of the federal government was placed in custody for falsely reporting the incident. A civilian employee of the federal government is in custody for conveying false information regarding an active shooter at Joint Base McGuire. Habab called the incident senseless fear-mongering and promised to bring down the hammer of the law for anyone found guilty of creating unnecessary panic. So thank you for asking about that. We appreciate that. That's why we love the comments that we received. There's your update on it. Well, these waves coming in. Thank you. Also, Mark writes in, good morning, Frank. Well, good morning, Mark. The government shuts down after late night Senate meeting. Yes, they had another meeting yesterday. Nothing came of it. Also, the Trump administration freezes $18 billion in infrastructure funding for New York City. We may report a little bit more on that later on. We have so much to cover, but yes, that was announced, and you can find out more at the New York Post or Empire Report if you want to find out the exact details of that $18 billion infrastructure freeze. And Bondi and Hegseth are meeting with local authorities as National Guard troops arrive in Memphis. Thank you very much. All right, we're going to kick off the program with a couple of updates from yesterday's show. And I may bring up this specific article a couple of times. We had a very astute viewer write in, am I going to have to report my inflation rebate check, inflation refund check on my taxes? We speculated at the time that yes, you will have to. That is the nature of the beast. Well, we are, as normal here on Frankly Speaking, correct. You should report Governor Hochul's inflation refund check on your taxes, writes the Gothamist. So the money that you're paying for anyway to get your money back is now going to be taxed on the back end as well. Boy, that $2,000 check is just looking better and better. Make sure you keep your stub so you don't get penalized even more. State officials confirmed to the Gothamist that the checks, which will start arriving this week, are subject to federal income tax. Federal charges won't be deducted from the face value of the rebate checks, so it'll be up to New Yorkers to report the rebates on their 2025 income tax returns when they're filed next year. So keep that stub for about a year. That means the $2 billion program championed by Governor Hochul will end up sending hundreds of millions of dollars to President Trump's administration. Critics on both the political left and right shook their heads at the news. They said the federal tax liability could have been avoided if the rebate program were structured differently. If Governor Hochul wasn't in such a hurry to, as someone had put yesterday, essentially buy votes by sending us a $200 check. If you're a family, $400 check. The question that we've been asking since the announcement came months ago that this was going to happen, what you're going to do with that windfall. Because if you listen to Governor Hochul's speech on these checks, you would think you hit the Powerball. You would think it's life-changing. My theory on it has been that you're actually, I think people that haven't been staying up on it, they're going to initially like having that money. Don't get me wrong, we all want $200. But that it's almost insulting when you hear the words being said and when you start to realize, well, yeah, Governor Hochul's up for re-election. So will you take that $200 check and say, thank you, wow, this is wonderful? Or will you take that check and go, this is it for all the bluster? So yes, make sure you save the information for a year so that you can report it on your taxes, which could have been done differently. So thank you to the viewer that brought that up. And there's your answer. Also, as an update that I never thought in a million years, in 1 week, would I use the phrase Bad Bunny so often. Trump advisor, if you haven't seen this, let me give you some background. Bad Bunny is the halftime performer at the Super Bowl. There's a lot of criticism there for a couple different reasons. Bad Bunny has been very outspoken on his dislike for Trump, I understand. Very kind of political in that manner. There's some drag show connotations there with his performances. I've seen a lot of different things why it really upsets the more conservative fan base of the NFL. Well, Trump's advisor, Corey Lewandowski, his former campaign manager. Are they still close? I guess. I get confused sometimes. Appeared on Benny Johnson's web interview series, The Benny Show. He warned that ICE agents will be present at the 2026 Super Bowl where Bad Bunny is set to perform. Notably, the halftime show is Bad Bunny's only U.S. concert appearance that's set for 2026 at this time. Bad Bunny told ID Magazine last month that his fear of ICE raids were part of the reason why he skipped touring in the U.S. When Johnson asked Lewandowski, and this is being reported by Variety Magazine, if, quote, ICE will have enforcement at the Super Bowl where Bad Bunny is performing, the Trump advisor responded, there is nowhere you can provide safe haven to people who are in this country illegally. Not the Super Bowl and nowhere else. We will find you and apprehend you and put you in a detention facility and deport you. Know that it is a very real situation under this administration, which is contrary to how it used to be. He also added, it's so shameful they decided to pick somebody who seems to hate America so much to represent them at the halftime show. We should be trying to be inclusive, not exclusive. There are plenty of great bands and entertainment people who could have played at the show that would be bringing people together and not separating them. If there are illegal aliens, I don't care if it's a concert for Johnny Smith or Bad Bunny or anybody else, we're going to do enforcement everywhere. We're going to make Americans safe. This is a directive from the president. If you're in this country illegally, go home. So Bad Bunny explained that part of the reason he did his Puerto Rico residency and will continue to tour around the world without stopping in the U.S. is because blanking ICE could be outside my concert. And it's something that we are talking about and very concerned about, he said at the time. There are many reasons why I didn't show up in the U.S., and none of them were out of hate. I performed there many times. All the shows have been successful. All of them have been magnificent. I've enjoyed connecting with Latinos who have been living in the U.S., but specifically for a residency here in Puerto Rico, when we are unincorporated territory of the U.S., people from the U.S. could come here to see the show. Now, specifically to Lewandowski's comments, they reached out to Bad Bunny for comment. No response. So, ICE agents will be at the Super Bowl for the Bad Bunny performance. There is your now daily updates on Bad Bunny. Speaking of which, on the crackdown on illegal immigration, the crackdown at the border, CNN has a wonderful piece, or CNN, the New York Post has a wonderful piece, but it comes from CNN. CNN did an interview with an alleged Sinaloa cartel leader, which I always find that strange when CNN's done this a few times, but there's other mainstream media outlets that have these interviews with notoriously bad people. Well, an alleged Sinaloa cartel leader admitted that Trump's aggressive border policies have made the illegal work of the powerful Mexican drug gang more difficult. An anonymous member of El Chapo's former gang explained that Trump's immigration and drug policies have put a damper on their black market tradecraft in a bizarre interview with a news station's senior national correspondent, David Culver. It was done in the back of an SUV. From killing to coordinating smuggling operations, he said he's done it all, Culver said, referring to Trump. Do you think that President Trump what he has been doing is making your job tougher? He asked the confessed killer and cartel boss. Oh yeah, the gang member said, dressed in black mask, sunglasses, black gloves, and a hat to conceal his identity. So it's become more difficult, you think? Yes, the supposed gangbanger said. So there you are. Surprising you're getting that information from CNN. Okay, also, oh wow, we're already running late. A couple other quick updates when we return. And we're going to talk about Pete Hegseth's speech. There's the anonymous sources that are saying it was disrespectful for Hegseth to speak in that way to the generals. We're going to talk about that. Obviously, the government shutdown, not looking great for Democrats. So let me do this. We've asked so many questions this morning. Your prediction on how long the government shutdown will last. It's kind of an interesting scenario because Democrats are starting to see that there is no real out for them. Their leverage is gone. The shutdown is here. So where do they go from here? A lot of bluster, of course, from Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer, but no real answers. And really, the optics of it look very bad too, because the Republicans have put forth a clean continuing resolution saying we're just funding until November 21st. The Democrats are saying, no, we want over $1 trillion for these causes to be added on just to keep the government funded till November 21st when it all has to happen again. So where do you sit when it comes to kind of like if you're in Vegas, the over-under? How many days do you think this will last? How many weeks? How many months? I would love to hear from you. We've got so much more to talk about. I feel really good about today's program already, and we're only 14 minutes in. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. All right, three quick updates. All right, let's get right to them. Hundreds of celebrities have relaunched a McCarthy-era committee to defend free speech. Now, I know Joe Rogan went on quite a tangent yesterday saying, how dare these Hollywood celebrities, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, but talk about Jimmy Kimmel when people are literally being arrested in the United Kingdom for sharing certain posts or saying certain things on social media. But on Wednesday, over 550 celebrities relaunched a group first organized during the post-World War II Red Scare, the Committee for the First Amendment. Their intent is to stand up in what they call a defense of our constitutional rights, adding the federal government is once again engaged in a coordinated campaign to silence critics in the government, the media, the judiciary, academia, and the entertainment industry. You know who the headliner is? Who maybe you could say the president of the group is? And I'll use what NPR, which is no longer receiving our funding, NPR, the title that they give her. Actor and activist Jane Fonda. I'm sure that makes many of the veterans in our group outraged. Other members, I'm not going to go through all of them. I don't know a lot of the names. Spike Lee, J.J. Abrams, Aaron Sorkin, Judd Apatow, Barbara Streisand's in there, John Legend. Kind of the cast of characters you would expect. Billie Eilish. Nikki Glaser, the comedian, Mark Ruffalo, a lot of activist names here. Anne Hathaway, Ben Stiller, Fran Drescher, who last month ended a term as the president of the union, the SAG union. In the letter, the authors write, the committee was initially created during the McCarthy era, a dark time when the federal government repressed and persecuted American citizens for their political beliefs. They targeted elected officials, government employees, academics, and artists. They were blacklisted, harassed, silenced, and even imprisoned. The McCarthy era ended when Americans from across the political spectrum finally came together and stood up for the principles and the Constitution against the forces of repression. Enough of that. I can't remember the name of the book. Ann Coulter had a fantastic book debunking this idea of kind of the overused term of McCarthyite. So that's just an update. As we talked about Jimmy Kimmel, as we talked about these Hollywood celebrities, they've been very busy signing letters and now starting a group. Okay. Also, as no surprise here, student loan debt is strangling Gen X. Free-flowing student loans promised upward mobility. Instead, they left the forgotten generation with a mountain of debt and regret. One saying, I'm going to be working until the day I die. The reason I bring this up is because we've talked about what has happened on college campuses, the anti-Semitism that has become so prevalent, but also the fact that so many younger people being promised these student loans, especially Gen X, and receiving those loans and majoring in, what was the one protester? Majoring in 18th century, like it was like feminism, socialist poetry. I mean, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but not that much. And they walk away with that degree, and surprise, surprise, there's no work out there. So that coming from, just a quick update on there, Wall Street Journal, student loan debt is strangling Gen Z. Maybe time to start thinking about all the generations here. Start thinking about the trades. Start thinking about maybe leaving high school and instantly earning money as compared to leaving high school and instantly being in debt, according to that article, for some people, the rest of their lives. All right. Coming up next, a little bit more on Pete Hegseth's speech. Also, of course, the government shutdown, the biggest issue of the day. How's it going to affect you? Your prediction on how long it's going to last. But I mentioned that grieving father the other day, and that tragic, heartbreaking story, and how that hearing went down. Jennifer Harrison has a really good opinion on this, and this is our last little update of the morning. But on Monday, Jennifer writes, as I watched the House Judiciary Committee convene its field hearing on violent crime in Charlotte, North Carolina, it all came rushing back. In April of 2023, I testified before the same committee here in New York in a hearing made necessary by the disastrous progressive policies implemented by a George Soros-funded district attorney and the state's soft-on-crime laws. I spoke both as a survivor of homicide, the love of my life was murdered decades ago, and as an advocate who has worked alongside countless other victims of violent crime ever since. My words were not about politics, but about life and death. 2 years later, House members convened in Charlotte for the same reason, in the wake of the horrific light rail slaying of Irana Zortuska. Families shattered by murder and violent crime came to share their stories. Their words were gut-wrenching, their pain undeniable. Yet as I saw in New York, House Democrats in Charlotte did not come to listen with empathy or humility. They came armed with talking points and political spin, determined to discredit grieving parents and loved ones and to invalidate the raw truth of what these families endure every single day. What we saw was grotesque. And again, the proof that the soft on crime policies of the Democrats, they're presenting to you that, oh, these numbers are down from last year. They're horrific numbers. There's grieving families that are there that are telling you their stories, and yet they find it as an opportunity in their mind to get political. But I'll continue. Democratic committee members said, in essence, my heart goes out to you, but crime is down, so your child doesn't matter. They mispronounced victims' names while pretending to care. They cloaked indifference and sympathy, while actively minimizing the horror. It is not only dishonest, it is cruel. It is gaslighting grieving families, and it must end. Yet the same nightmare continues to play out in city after city, state after state. Democrats' response is always the same: hollow platitudes followed by an avalanche of excuses. Representative Deborah Ross, the committee member who took flack for slighting victims' families Monday, and others cling to bloated programs that do not work. They funnel taxpayer dollars into ineffective nonprofits that are disguised as help for criminals, addicts, and the mentally ill, but serve more as a political slush fund than life-saving institutions. They elevate so-called violence interrupters in practice, taxpayer-funded street gangs who control corners, massage statistics, and claim progress where none exists. And we've talked about the fabrication of numbers in the past. This isn't reform, but corruption dressed up as compassion. And while they continue their charade, our loved ones are slaughtered. Let's be clear, crime has not declined. A summons instead of an arrest does not mean that crime didn't happen. And a dismissed case doesn't mean a family didn't bury their child. Manipulating numbers to protect ideology doesn't erase the dead. It only erases their dignity. Logan Federico, Mary Collins, Irana Zaruska, the list goes on. Do their lives not matter? Consider what these families brought into that hearing room. Steve Federico broke down as he described his daughter, Logan, being dragged out of bed, naked, shot in the head, perhaps praying in her final moment that her father, her hero, would burst in to save her. How could any human being listen to that man and then dismiss him with a talking point? How could anyone look in his eyes and say, we're sorry for your loss, but our programs are working? Or listen to Mia Alderman, who recounted the torture her special needs granddaughter endured before her killers tried to burn her body. She wondered aloud if Mary was cold, if she needed a blanket, if she cried out for comfort that never came. That image should shatter the arrogance of every politician who dares claim that criminal justice reforms are working. The bottom line is this: these policies are not compassionate, they are deadly. They protect ideology, not people. They excuse criminals while burying victims. And as long as lawmakers keep lying to survivors, as long as they pretend that homicide is a statistic and not a shattered family, the blood will remain on their hands. We do not need more platitudes. We do not need more political theater. We need accountability, honesty, and change. Because as we saw up close during Monday's hearings, beyond every number is a name. And behind every name is a family still screaming into the void for justice. Democrats should not be saying crime is down or our programs just need more time or sorry for your loss. But what they should be saying is simple. We are sorry, we failed. People are dying, and that is enough to admit we must change course. Anything less is complicity. That's Jennifer Harrison. I thought it was such a powerful piece. You can find it at the New York Post, but I wanted to kind of use that because yesterday we talked about Well, we've talked about all week about that hearing. We talked about crime, obviously, and victims yesterday with Sheriff Jim Allard. If you missed that interview, it is up on our YouTube page. It's also at WYDCTV.com. All right, we got to take a short break. I see some comments coming in. Your predictions on the government shutdown. We're going to talk about Pete Hegseth when we come back. Again, in the next hour, we'll be hearing from the Alzheimer's Association about the upcoming walk to end Alzheimer's, which I'm going to be a proud part of. We'll tell you more about that later on. Stay with us. Running just a tad bit late here on Frankly Speaking. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Speaking of Hesselson's, of course, their tent sale begins today. You've seen the ads. We're all very excited about it. If you've never been to a tent sale, my goodness, you don't know what you're missing. Absolutely go to their tent sale. And also, let me know. I'd love to hear your comments, your texts. We'll read them on the air of the great deals that you scored at Hesselson's. I'm looking forward to it. I know that. I do a lot of my Christmas shopping. So I know I'm looking forward to it. I've got a little mad money, and I'm ready to have a good time. All right. Comment from viewer. Good morning. Let's have a vote. I say keep the government shut down until the budget is balanced. That could be a long time. I'll put it up for a vote. Yay or nay, everyone. Yay or nay. Comment from a different viewer. Morning. Well, morning to you. I'm thinking the shutdown will last less than a week because the Democrats have to be starting to think that they made a mistake, that no one is blaming the Republicans as they had hoped. That the Democrats are responsible for the shutdown is obvious given that the Republicans, for the most part, voted to fund the government. The Democrats, for the most part, voted to shut the government down. Yet another example of their amazing ability to think shallowly, that's a tough one, to think without considering the consequences. Willy-nilly, if you get my meaning. Well, to your point, Chuck Schumer, and I'm going to talk about this later on, Chuck Schumer, he realizes the shutdown is not a good look, but what can he do? He has to be seen doing something, because look at the backlash he received last time. He had to cancel his book tour because of his own party was going to protest. His poll numbers are the lowest they've been in something like 20, 30 years. They're talking about removing him from leadership. So he has to be a part of that resistance, but he knows it's not good. So far as to yesterday at a hearing saying that the New York Times poll was biased. The New York Times was biased towards Republicans. It actually created laughter, uproarious laughter in the gallery because, for heaven's sakes, if you're in the position and you've dug a hole so deep as a Democrat that you are saying the New York Times is biased against your cause, you are in a bad, bad place. We'll talk about that in a moment. So I think to your point, they realized even CNN had a piece. I'll get to this later on, but the headline even read that Democrats may not, what's the exact quoting? I don't want to paraphrase because I printed out, the main headline is different, but the clickbait headline on the front page was Democrats might have catastrophically overestimated their leverage. But CNN still got to be good soldiers and say, but if the shutdown drags on, Trump and the GOP could suffer. Good. You got your due diligence in there. You made sure to do your disclaimer. We're going to talk about the shutdown here in just a moment. Let me just quickly, because we don't have that much time before we take another break. The Daily Beast, the far left Daily Beast, said defense officials are fuming at Pentagon Pete's inexcusable rant to the generals. Inexcusable. The result was a 90-minute spectacle that many in uniform say was a political performance piece that should have been an email. All right. We talked about this with Sheriff Allard yesterday. Pet peeve of mine, something I should probably be better at using. Some say, and then you can say whatever you want to your guest. In this scenario, many in uniform say, same example, you don't have to name names, you don't have to quote. Current and former Pentagon officials told Politico that Hegseth, who prefers to go by the moniker Secretary of War, could have saved both time and money by sending his message by email. Would it have been as impactful if he called out, and I quote, fat generals or people with beards in the armed forces as beardos? Would it have been as effective in an email? Or, as Pete Hegseth knows and so many others, these memos fall on deaf ears. They're ignored, just like the PT requirements have been ignored, as he mentioned in his speech. So I think the impact was very important to have it in person. They called it a wasteful stunt meant to push grooming standards that align with the MAGA agenda. Even before the gathering, some military leaders raised alarms about the risks of concentrating so many senior figures in a single room. A former senior defense official said it's a waste of time for a lot of people who had better things they could have and should be doing. It's also an inexcusable strategic risk to concentrate so many leaders in the operational chain of command in the same publicly known time and place to convey an inane message of little merit. One defense official said the event was more like a press conference than briefing the generals. Could have been an email. Total waste of money. Not quite a loyalty test, but on the spectrum of loyalty to ideology. Well, the War Department is pushing back on this, rejecting reports. The Department of War says the national defense strategy was seamlessly coordinated with senior civilians and uniformed leaders, and that any narrative to the contrary is false. The department's national defense strategy has been seamlessly coordinated with all senior civilians and military leadership with total collaboration. Any narrative to the contrary is false. So he's getting full pushback from the media, getting full pushback on some of the decisions that they're making. This is a little bit different than the meeting that they had, but the pushback did come days after he addressed the commanders. P. Hegseth is, I would argue, undoubtedly used to this by now. Anything he does is under a biased magnifying glass because the media has wanted, especially considering he's double whammy. He's in the Trump administration and he was a Fox News host. So they're looking anywhere for anonymous sources, speaking on anonymity, to badmouth P. Hegseth and the decisions he's making. I mean, I know the headlines yesterday that how dare he lecture when his rank and serving lecture those generals. And now you have these anonymous sources saying, wow, could have been an email. But Joe Rogan went all in support of Pete Hegseth's effort to get rid of what he called crazy people who have been infesting the U.S. military command and structure. It was fascinating to learn about physical training and how little it's happening, how people are coming out of the military out of shape, overweight, as Pete Hegseth was talking about. And he talked about the disgrace in his mind of fat generals walking around the Pentagon, that it's not the right look. But Rogan went on a rant in his latest podcast, talking about how Joe Biden administration, putting these extremist leftists in the military to institute identity politics baloney. No more identity politics and baloney. The most important thing is to be ready, Rogan said. Supposedly, they want to get all the generals together and give them some sort of a morale and ethical mandate, like preparedness. This is what we want the military to be. No more blanking politics, no more identity politics and baloney. The most important thing is to be ready. Be ready. Have the best, most capable military that's humanly possible, given the resources that we have today. This is where our goal is. This is where our job is, which makes sense. You saw that what the blank was going on over the last 4 years. You've got guys in dresses talking about how it's really important to have inclusiveness. It's the most important thing about the military is inclusivity, Rogan added. We had crazy people that were in charge of very important positions. He then recalled the guy who was stealing women's clothes. And this guy was in charge of nuclear waste and running around stealing people's underwear. So I think the reaction that I've received from people, whether on the show or just off air, has been overwhelmingly supportive of it. It seems to be more the media elite class that is outraged that the warrior mentality is coming back to the military. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. But when we come back, it's time to talk government shutdown. Here we are, day 2. Your predictions on how long it'll last, how it's affected you. I'm guessing none whatsoever, no effect whatsoever. But we will talk about that when we come back. Plenty to cover. I feel like we've covered a lot already. I feel like we're doing good. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox. We'll be right back. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio on Market Street Corning. Mark writes in with his prediction. I predict the government shutdown will last 2 weeks as Trump won't back down and the Democrats will cave as the media is not on their side. Weirdly enough, they want to be on their side. They're trying, as I mentioned, I keep highlighting that fact that I saw that one clip where they said, well, Republicans have the majority in the House and the Senate. Ignoring and hoping that you weren't paying attention that the threshold is 60 in the Senate, which the Republicans don't have. So they're trying. It's not working. But I did want to give you an update kind of in a way from yesterday's program. I had mentioned that Governor Hochul is trying to make the government shutdown hurt the most. She's trying to play that game. So she said, I'm going to shut down the Statue of Liberty. We don't have the federal funding. We're not going to pay for it out of the state coffers. Now, before in the past, Governor Cuomo did pay for that because it is the Statue of Liberty. Well, the Trump administration will keep the Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island open during the partial government shutdown, the Interior Department revealed Wednesday. Thanks to the leadership of President Donald J. Trump, both Ellis Island and the Statue of Liberty remain open for the enjoyment of the American people, said a spokesperson. So this, again, kind of cutting Hochul off at the knees. Governor Hochul thought, and it's an old school, it's still very prevalent, but it's an old school way of doing it where she wants to make it hurt for the common citizens so that they'll be outraged and call for Trump to end the shutdown when it's not his shutdown to end. We all know it's the Democrats, but it's old school optics. It's, again, the idea that Hochul is always 2-3 steps behind everybody else. We see it in some of the language she uses and some of the decisions she makes. And this is on the political realm, not necessarily at the Albany level, though that too. But when we talk about the pure politics of it. Hochul said, if Lady Liberty's iconic torch goes dark, it'll be thanks to the Washington Republicans who refused common sense and abandoned the people they were elected to represent. Now, keep in mind, abandoning common sense means you did not cave to the Democrats' outrageous demands to keep the government funded until November 21st by giving them over $1 trillion. So common sense is just give the Democrats the $1 trillion. It's, again, that's the way it was always done in the past until kind of the MAGA movement came, that you were considered to compromise if you gave Democrats everything that they demanded. But again, see how Hochul is playing this game. Well, if Lady Liberty's iconic torch goes dark, it's thanks to Republicans. She tries to be at that national level, and I've said it a million times, and she just doesn't have it. She wouldn't be governor and never would have been governor if Andrew Cuomo didn't resign. That's why a lot of times you pick a lieutenant governor that you don't have to worry about nipping at your heels, and he definitely did that. But then, of course, Andrew Cuomo, with his scandals, resigning, so she steps up there. Showing again that she's behind the 8 ball, not prepared to be in this situation. She's trying, keep this in mind, she is trying to make the people of New York City and the tourists and the visitors who are so important to the city, trying to make them suffer. Trying to, and suffer is a strong word, but trying to inconvenience them by saying, you know what, the light's not going to be on in the Statue of Liberty. You're not going to be able to visit. Thanks to Washington Republicans. It's really despicable. I mean, it's a minuscule thing in the scheme of everything going on, but it's a very despicable attitude to take because this happens every time. They try to make it hurt the most. Explain to me, and I know this has been the case before, explain to me, and this is all things that have been set up in the past, why your tax dollars who have essentially bought and maintained so much land at national parks, your land, the taxpayers, the Americans' land, why is an open field, why is whatever the case may be, a national park, why is that closed because of a government shutdown? So they have to go out of their way to put up a gate. I never understood that. So the work is to put up a gate so you can't go. I never understood that. And that's what Governor Hochul is doing here. We are going to essentially not fund this because I want to score a political point. At the time, back I think in one of the shutdowns during Trump's first term, Cuomo did fund the Statue of Liberty. But in this case, again, cutting Hochul off at the knees because she's always a step behind. the Trump administration will keep the Statue of Liberty open during the government shutdown. Now, yesterday, Senate Democrats blocked a bid to end the government shutdown as agencies set to lay off 750,000 employees daily. The Senate voted 55 to 45, and that's why Mark may be accurate there in his prediction, because I think you're going to start seeing Democrats go, we're 5 away. The polling isn't looking good for us, even if Chuck Schumer says the New York Times poll is biased against Democrats. They still have races. These senators still have primary challengers. Do they want these optics to continue? But the Senate voted 55 to 45 to end debate on the continuing resolution, 5 votes short of the 60 needed to clear the legislative filibuster, with Democrats Catherine Cortez Masto of Nevada and John Fetterman of Pennsylvania, as well as independent Angus King of Maine, all voting yay. All but one Republican, Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky, also voted for the bill. That is kind of Rand Paul's, and I know we've got a lot of Rand Paul fans out there, but that's kind of his go-to, his modus operandi. That's what he normally does. He's a no vote. Chuck Schumer and other Democrats had objected to the so-called clean continuing resolution because it failed to extend Affordable Care Act subsidies set to expire at the end of the year. So this is keeping the government open until November 21st. Clean spending bill. They demand over $1 trillion for something that is going to expire at the end of the year. It's conversations that you could maybe have as you're having the conversation until the 21st with this new or with the clean funding. So you have all that time to actually work on the budget, work on that specific issue. But no, they wanted to shut down the government because they thought it would hurt Republicans, and they realized the backlash has been intense and quick. And now you have Trump preparing for imminent federal layoffs after Democrats have forced the government shutdown. He told lawmakers that reductions in forces, RIFs, this is specifically Russ Voigt from OMB, that the layoffs were imminent and likely a day or two out. Voigt described the move as Democrats forced the Trump administration's hand after Senate Democrats rejected the GOP's plan to keep federal agencies funded multiple times. We're going to tell you what some had to say, specifically CNN. When we come back, running just a little bit late. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio. We have so much to cover. I got to take another break to wrap up this hour because I realized that I'm going on these long tangents and I have so many great comments. So let's wrap up. Keep the comments coming in. We're going to wrap up hour number 1 with your amazing comments. Hour number 2, we're going to show you the picture sent in by a viewer that I know you're going to love. And the next hour will also have the Alzheimer's Association joining us. But listen to this headline. I know I mentioned it earlier, but Democrats might have catastrophically overestimated their leverage, but if the shutdown drags on, Trump and the GOP could suffer. Okay, interesting how that works. All right, let's take a short break. Again, I apologize just for running so late this morning. I think I have, again, Sheriff Allard, if you missed that interview yesterday, it is up on our YouTube page or at WYDCTV.com. As I mentioned, Alzheimer's Association today. Tomorrow, it looks like we are going to be talking about the Wineglass Marathon, which is this weekend in the Gafford District, that you can tell because there's so many runners out on the street. Getting ready, getting prepared. And then Monday, we're going to be talking to Rotary about their upcoming October feast. So keep your comments coming in. We're going to wrap up hour number 1 with your comments and a couple of quick things when we return. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio on Market Street in Corning. Let me know how much fun you have at the Hesselson's tent sale going on starting today. And I think that runs all the way through Sunday. It's a great way to get some early Christmas shopping done. All right. I look forward to it. I know that. Let's go to viewer comments to wrap up today, the hour 1, of today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Rick writes in, good morning, Frank. Good morning, Rick. He wrote this Tuesday night, he says, but it still applies. I wonder how many generals will get fired after Pete the Leak and Donald's dueling speeches. I'm saying 2 for sure, maybe up to 4, depending on how cranky Trump gets with the Democrats over the shutdown. This is a long shot, but they will all be generals of the Democratic Party with facial hair. Rick, what is if someone's the general of the Democratic Party and not a general in the armed forces, maybe that should be a real concern. So the generals, you think the people that are going to get fired are the generals of the Democratic Party with facial hair. Fair enough. Besides, P is a leak, and Trump is commonly known as Triple D, Draft Dodger Don. Is he commonly known as that? Okay. And shave those beards off and look like combat-ready soldiers. Whatever. Hey, where's the Epstein files? We need something to run interference for the shutdown. Is it just me, or did Don run out of orange hair dye and instant tan? He is looking pale. Oh, and then Rick references the AI that he used, and Hakeem Jeffries weighed in on this. But Donald Trump has been using AI to go after, you will say, some of the people, especially in the shutdown. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. And then he mentions the withholding of funding to New York City and other high-traffic Democratic areas as a way to be a jerk in order to get his funding, we'll say, garbage funding passed. I don't like that word. What do you mean garbage funding passed? A clean resolution to just keep the government funded at the same rate it was last week? I don't understand that argument at all. It's a regular continuing resolution. Nothing else added on, as the Democrats are demanding over $1 trillion added, or they keep the government shut down. I mean, to me, it seems like a losing battle. But we'll continue with other comments. Thank you, says this viewer, to Governor Hochul for donating money to both Trump's government and Stefanik's run. Perfect. And that's in reference to the inflation rebate check that you should be getting in the mail at any time. That $200 for single individuals, $400 for families. Yes, a lot of people will be donating to Trump. A lot of people will be donating to Stefanik's run for governor. So that viewer thanking Hochul for that donation money to both of them. Comment from a different viewer. You caught me off guard when you said that Hochul was 2 or 3 steps behind everyone else. Had a good belly laugh that left me coughing. Sorry, good one, thanks. It's true. It's awkward. I know I've said it a million times. It's just plain awkward with the things that she says and does that she thinks puts her at that national level. Even to the point when she kind of got a taste of the national level at the DNC, she flubbed her speech. She's always just behind, and she isn't aware of it. I don't know if it's because she's surrounded by yes people or puppet masters, as some people have said in the past, or if it's really just kind of that ego and that delusion of grandeur, which Cuomo had, but in a different way. His was all power. Hers is delusion of grandeur within her own party. She really wants to be an important player in a party and get invited to those Democrat cocktail parties, and she just doesn't have it. You never see her name thrown around with the bigwigs, do you? All right, comment from a different viewer. Governor Hochul is so ridiculous and not for the people in New York State. Go ahead and shut down what you must. Come on, November, and come on, Elise Stefanik. Yes, Elise Stefanik saying that it's not a matter of if, it's when, and has signaled that it'll be after the elections in November because, of course, as we know, the gubernatorial race is next November. But Hochul's already getting ahead of it by sending you money, your own money, that we learned today you will have to report on your taxes next year. So thank you for that big windfall. But Elise Stefanik, everybody's rooting for to get in. All right. And she's going to be a formidable candidate. It's going to be an interesting race. And Governor Hochul is concerned. You could tell in some of the comments that she releases against Stefanik. All right, final comment for this hour, and then we got to go to hour number 2. This from a viewer. The Department of War is not a business where you just do an email. Hegseth was clear. I see you. I am talking to you. This is what I expect from you. You have your mission. Get it done. That is put perfectly. And those generals that said this could have been an email, that is one of the institutional problems that has happened in the last 4 years, where people have been ignoring orders, as Hegseth mentioned, with physical training and these type of things, and more lax standards, and those days are over. So you're spot on that just doing it over email is not the way things are being done anymore, because it's been proven you're ignoring those emails and you're ignoring the standards. So yes, spot on. Thank you. All right, we got to take a short break. And then we get ready for hour number 2, right here on Frankly Speaking on WYDC TV, Big Fox. Welcome to hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking, broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio here on Market Street Corning. One of these years, we're going to have to broadcast live from the Hesselson's tent sale going on starting today. I don't know why we haven't thought of that in the past, but make sure you make it out to the tent sale. All right, in this hour, we're going to be talking to the Alzheimer's Association about the upcoming Walk to End Alzheimer's. I'm going to be a proud member of. It's coming up on Saturday, October 11th. Yes, I know. We've been so busy promoting the Dwayne Eddy historical marker and raising funds for that. And this one snuck up on me. I'm so proud to be a part of it. It was an honor to be a part of it last year, and that was my first year doing it. We raised so much money from viewers, and we're very grateful for that because it's an amazing organization. If you want to donate, there is my specific team. I think it's the team page. I hope it's the team page. I think so, because right now there's only myself and Elisa who joined the team last year, and she raised good money as well. So that is that's the website. If you are interested, you're going to find out more about it coming up in just a little bit. All right, I have to show you this, and I think I know who's responsible for it. I don't want to say, just in case that's not the case, but I'm about 99.999% sure. But we won't name names, but I think this is wonderful. We got this from a viewer and said they saw it in Elmira near the intersection of Clemens Center and 5th. I believe this is the same building, again, almost positive, that had an amazing Trump painting in it. At one time, it also had a Judge Jeanine sign up. Look at this. How nice is that? Of course, Charlie Kirk, goes without saying. Father, forgive them, quoting Jesus Christ. I thought that was a wonderful use of that space as he has done in the past. And I'm so glad you sent that photo to that viewer who sent that photo, because I knew that would be a big hit with so many of you, and I'm sure there'll be a lot more traffic driving by over in that direction, Clemens Center and 5th. So thank you for sending that. Always appreciate pictures, always appreciate messages. Thank you. All right, so Democrats might have catastrophically overestimated their leverage, says CNN, but if the shutdown drags on, Trump and the GOP could suffer. I'm not sure how that works. I had to get that little disclaimer in there, but it's Stephen Collinson. So you click on that link, and the headline is, "The government shutdown is a slow boil political crisis. It's too early to blink, but the pressure is slowly beginning to rise. The government shutdown drama is still in its opening act, with Democrats and Republicans each heaping blame on the other side. And despite deepening partisan bitterness in Washington, nothing has changed the equation that led to the impasse. Republicans and Democrats both saw a greater political advantage in letting the government close than in keeping it open." Again, I'm just confused. That's such a naive way to put it if Stephen Collinson is being truthful with you. I don't think he is. I think he's being disingenuous. The Republicans are asking for a clean continuing resolution. Just keep the rate we're paying now, just keep it till November 21st so we have a little more time to work on it. And Democrats are demanding over $1 trillion just to keep the government open until November 21st when the debate starts all over again. So how are Republicans responsible for the government closing? The Republicans don't have 60 votes in the Senate. It's as simple as that. So what this is telling you, as I said in the 6 o'clock hour, and this is historically what's been done with government shutdowns or threats of government shutdown, what the media says, what Democrats say is, you have to compromise, Republicans, by giving into every demand that the Democrats have made. And then you will have compromised. Then you have kept the government open. You'll still receive criticism, even though you gave in 100% of the demands, but we'll be a little kinder to you. Those old ways aren't working. Collinson continues, "The earliest signs were evident Wednesday of the political strains that will eventually crack the unity of one or both parties, whether it takes days or weeks to end the standoff. One saw the rollout of initial battleground strategies. The White House adopted a ruthless position threatening to mass firings of federal workers and halting billions of dollars in public funds to humiliate Democrat leaders. Democrats, meanwhile, hammered their key claim that Trump will make health care more expensive for millions. There were rumblings of behind-the-scenes discussions to end the shutdown in the Senate from key players in the ever-diminishing political center, and some early signs of disquiet emerged among some important Republicans over Trump's hardball tactics. So they got you with the clickbait headline, but then it's all criticism of Republicans and none on Democrats. Do you think there'll be enough Republicans? If you take Stephen Collinson at his word, the Republicans will say, you know what, we don't like this. Sure, we're not getting a lot of blame this time, but we're willing to fund 1 point whatever trillion dollars in what was just enhanced Obamacare funding from COVID, which, by the way, doesn't run out till the end of the year. So why are we discussing it now when we're just trying to keep the government open until November 21st? These are inconvenient questions that Stephen Collinson apparently refuses to ask. Democrats who advocate using the government to advance the common good effectively voted to shut it down with the use of the Senate 60-vote filibuster on Tuesday night. This after they spent 8 months accusing Trump of destroying the federal machine. There you go. Took you a little while to get there. I don't want to spend any more time on Stephen Collinson. Just, to me, maybe it's because I'm in the field of media, I find it fascinating to see how the media twists themselves up into pretzels to try to blame Republicans or try to downplay the blame that the Democrats are getting by the American people. And we were originally told that by Democrats, it's a lie. There's no health care for illegal immigrants. That is a lie. And then J.D. Vance comes out and expresses, and I hate this term that everybody's using now, has the receipts and shows how there is indeed funding for illegal immigrant health care. Democrat Representative Jimmy Panetta then admits, he's a Democrat from California, said that it's just a very, very small, a certain very small percentage of money that goes to people in the country illegally. So just a very small. No, well, in regards to certain very small percentages. So now they're finally having to admit it. But again, it's just small. It's kind of like crime. Oh, the crime's down. Well, yeah, because you changed the rules and you changed the statistics. But okay, crime's down. Never mind this victim's family. We'll ignore them because believe what I say, not what you see with your own eyes, right? But they are suggesting that there is, where did I do with that J.D. Vance? I thought I had it here. I wonder if I got rid of it already, accidentally. J.D. Vance explaining exactly what had happened when it comes to funding for illegal immigration. I must have just thrown it out. Darn it. There it is. J.D. Vance smacked down Democrat lawmakers' preposterous claims that Democrats are not trying to provide taxpayer-funded health care benefits to illegal immigrants. This was on an interview with Fox and Friends yesterday. Vance said Democrats want to reinstate Biden-era federal funding for emergency health care for illegal immigrants that was ended under the Trump administration. Quote, they say, we're not actually trying to give health care benefits to illegal aliens, and here's why it's not true. He called out 2 Biden-era programs that explicitly gave taxpayer health care money to illegal aliens that we turned off when President Trump took over in January. We turned off that funding because, of course, we want American citizens to benefit from those hospital services, not to be taxed, and then have those hospital services go to illegal aliens. Vance said a second Biden-era program gave mass parole to millions of illegal aliens and simultaneously made the parolees eligible for taxpayer-funded health care. The big, beautiful bill removed parolees from eligibility for taxpayer-subsidized credits that were once provided under the Affordable Care Act by redefining who is an eligible alien, he said. Now Vance says the Democrats want to turn that back on as they engage in a face-off with Republicans. The first thing they put out to reopen the government, they actually turned the money for health care benefits for illegal aliens back on. So it's not something we made up. It's not a talking point. It is the text of the bill that they initially gave us to reopen the government. It's preposterous for Democrats to run away from it now. Carolyn Levitt alleged Democrats engineered the shutdown to force taxpayers to fund health care for undocumented immigrants, given a $37 trillion debt. Quote, to put all this into perspective, the Democrats refused to keep the government open over health care to illegal aliens and now have jeopardized critical health care programs for American citizens. Instead, the Women, Infants, and Children program, community health center funding, Medicare treatment options, and other health programs are now at risk because of the Democrats rejecting the clean continuing resolution. The most vulnerable in our country are being punished because the Democrats want to prioritize illegals over American citizens. Vance said, but look, let's set that all aside. Let's open the government. Let's negotiate all these healthcare policy issues. Obviously, we're not going to support healthcare benefits for illegal aliens, but we will work with them to lower healthcare costs for American citizens if they're willing to do so. A little bit of some bipartisan conversation has been had so far. Richard Blumenthal, Democrat from Connecticut, said there are glimmers of hope, and I think they're bipartisan. Richard Blumenthal. Wasn't he the one that lied about his service in Vietnam? Schumer said Donald Trump and Republicans have barreled us into shutdowns because they refuse to protect Americans' health care. It's clear the way out of this shutdown is to sit down and negotiate with Democrats to address the looming health care crisis that faces tens of millions of American families. They're hoping the media can spin this in a way that people are duped. I just don't think it's working. And I think that's why you have Chuck Schumer and so many others that are scared right now. Chuck Schumer is old school, and that's why they hate him right now, the resistance. But he realizes this is not good for optics. This is not good for PR. So he has to, though, to keep his job where he's been there forever, he has to try anyway to make it look like he's part of the resistance, or he'll have to cancel another book tour, right? All right. We're going to talk a little bit about what Mike Johnson had to say. We'll tell you about what the Democrats in general had to say. We've got a lot to cover. I was hoping to get a little bit of New York State issues in here, but I'm not sure if we'll be able to. Coming up in the next segment, we'll read your comments, read some comments from the various politicians and pundits. And then around 7:20, we're going to hear from the Alzheimer's Association. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, of course, brought to you by our friends at Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. As you can see, the Gaffer District ramping up, getting ready for the Wine Glass Marathon weekend. We are back, broadcasting live and proudly from the Hesselson studio. I hope they're all watching as they're getting the tents set up at Hesselson's, getting ready for their big tent sale that begins today. All right, let's go to some viewer comments. Ken writes in, isn't the hypocrisy of Hakeem Jeffries amazing? And Jeffries is outraged over this AI video, and CNN called it a blatant racist video. Let me tell you exactly what Jeffries had, and we'll get back to, or said, and we'll get back to what Ken had to say. Jake Tapper said, one last thing before I go. I know you said you thought it was racist and bigoted, that sombrero and mustache, an image that President Trump put out there. Jeffrey said it wasn't simply my characterization. That was a broad characterization by a broad number of people. Now, Tapper interrupts in typical Tapper fashion, says J.D. Vance said he thought it was funny. Vice President Vance said he thought it was funny, and he said he didn't understand why you thought it was racist because you're not of Mexican heritage. Jeffrey said, quote, it was a xenophobic stereotype, which is why we've heard from many Latino organizations denouncing what took place. But the broader issue, I'm going to dwell on the president's erratic behavior in terms of the meme or the AI deepfake videos. The broader problem is it's deeply unserious, and this is a serious moment. We need to reopen the government. Go ahead. We need to enact a spending agreement that's bipartisan, that actually meets the need of the American people, and we need to address the Republican health care crisis. They're trying, aren't they? So Ken writes in, didn't Hakeem Jeffries, talking about Hakeem Jeffries' hypocrisy, he accused Trump of being a racist. But not too long ago, Jeffries created a video of himself eating a taco as a slam against Trump on backing off of tariffs. But Hakeem, being a Democrat, and the way the media handles it, of course, can't be a racist, just like the media and others and the history books don't teach you the Democrats being the party, originally the party of slavery. Thank you, Ken. Comment from a different viewer. I hope they use old tax returns so they can give money to dead Democrats and buy their vote. Yes, the old going around the cemeteries. writing down vote in your voter rolls. Thank you very much. Comment from a different viewer. And a wave. If Republicans would put together a real health care bill up that helps people, it would shut up Democrats. They have been pushing off doing that since Clinton. They lied to Trump, telling him that they had a program and didn't. At the time when Trump first got elected, yes, Paul Ryan and others said that, and how many years? We heard it for 4 years, however many years Obamacare had been enacted at that point. They had a plan to end Obamacare. And then Trump gets in there, and Republicans, not used to winning at that point, said, uh-oh, I know we've been saying we're going to repeal Obamacare and have a better plan. We never really had a plan. And yes, they didn't. They didn't have a plan. It caught everybody flat-footed, even though they've been campaigning on it. So I don't disagree. Comment from a different viewer. Keep up your good work. Well, thank you. We enjoy listening to you and everything going on in this world. Why can't we all get along? Everybody always blames each other and never get anything done. We all need Jesus Christ and prayers. We do. Thank you very much for that comment. That's very nice. No one can seem to get along, can they? Mike Johnson trading barbs with George Snuffleupagus. Oh, I knew it. I got to get back in the habit of saying it right. Not Snuffleupagus. George Stephanopoulos. He accused Johnson and Republicans of wanting to shut the government down to avoid continuing to fund Medicare coverage for millions of Americans. That's when the House Speaker pushed back. He said the Democrats' proposal is designed to prevent millions of Americans from losing their health insurance, losing Medicaid coverage, or paying higher health care premiums. Why are you against that? That's George Stephanopoulos. How do you like that for a neutral arbiter? Yes, I know. He worked for the Clintons and somehow has a cushy job at ABC where they try to suggest that he's neutral, where they cover up his connections to the Clintons. But imagine that question. Let me read it one more time just to show you the media. The Democrats' proposal is designed to prevent millions of Americans from losing their health insurance, losing Medicaid coverage, or paying higher health care premiums. Why are you against that? Here's all the good things of the Democrat talking points, and that's all they are, talking points. Well, how could you be against that? Puppy dogs, apple pie, the flag. How can you be against that? Johnson said, that's an absurd statement, what you said there. Well, of course, in his fair, neutral way, Stephanopoulos has to interrupt, as is so common now when you're doing an interview. Stephanopoulos, you are not the star of this interview. It is the speaker. He shoots back. It's a factual statement, said Stephanopoulos. This is why I give Mike Johnson, I give J.D. Vance, all these people credit for going on these shows, especially during election season, when it is so biased. It is so full of hate. This was on Good Morning America. They try to present this as it's going to be a fair interview, and he reads Democrat talking points and says, why are you against it? And then interrupts him to say they're factual statements. Johnson said, no, George, let me tell you what happened last night. Everybody can go and review the facts for themselves. 44 Senate Democrats voted to reject a clean, nonpartisan continuing funding resolution to keep the United States government open. The Democrats said instead that they wanted to give health care to illegal aliens instead of keeping critical services provided for the American citizen. That's what happened, plain and simple. Well, of course, Stephanopoulos can't take the answer in and be fair. He said, here are the facts. The proposal does not provide health care for illegal immigrants. Illegal immigrants cannot buy health care under the Affordable Care Act. They cannot receive health care subsidies. Johnson, again, now this time interrupting, saying that's not true. So, because the interview is supposed to be with the Speaker of the House, why would you let him talk? Stephanopoulos, again, interrupting, saying illegal immigrants are ineligible for Medicare, Medicaid, and the Children's Health Program. The Democrat bill does not make them eligible. Johnson countered that the Democrats' ACA proposal would roll back Republican provisions from the big, beautiful bill. It does actually, because what it does is unwind the changes that Republicans put into the big, beautiful bill, the signature legislation that we passed and signed into law on July 4th. That has been very successful in shoring up Medicaid for the people who are actually to receive it. He added that the Congressional Budget Office confirmed the law helped reduce premiums by removing ineligible recipients, illegal aliens, and able-bodied young men who are not eligible to be there. I got to say, I get why he goes on these programs, and ultimately it is good to not just always preach the choir. But it is frustrating to watch. It is so biased in these outlets that try to preach that they're neutral, try to preach that they're fair. Speaker Johnson blamed the House Democrats for being terribly selfish. We were simply trying to buy time. That's what the clean continuing resolution was. Working through the process, we ran out of time. We need 7 more weeks. We put out a clean continuing resolution on the table, assuming that everybody, all the Democrats, would do the right thing. They've rejected it. Now, 3 times as of today, the Senate Democrats, 44 of them, have voted the clean continuing resolution down, and they proposed Chuck Schumer's version, which is a dirty continuing resolution. They don't understand what they filed, that the Democrats voting didn't even read the bill they presented. They want to give health care to illegal aliens, claw back the funds that we put in for rural hospitals, and all sorts of other mayhem. We can't do that. We're just not going to do that. I've got to ask, let me continue. Johnson said, I could have loaded this up with all sorts of partisan provisions, but we didn't do that because we're operating in good faith and we want our partners on the other side of the aisle to go along with us, that the appropriators can go and debate all these issues. That's how the system works, and they're preventing it. I hope it's a short one because people really are suffering because of this, meaning the government shutdown. All right. Johnson accuses Schumer of blocking any real discussion to keep the government open. Trump is very bothered by that Chuck Schumer would do this, Democrats would do this because we haven't. And even when Republicans were in the minority, we did the right thing to keep the government open, and we fully expected that Schumer would do that again, as he always has, but not this time. This is a selfish political calculation he's made. He's got to prove to the far left that he's going to fight Trump or something. So we talked about the frustration with that. Okay, yeah, I did edit your text a little bit, Ken. I did. You caught me. All right. Wasn't nothing bad. Ken didn't say anything bad. Just edited a little bit. We've got to take a short break. When we come back, the Alzheimer's Association will be in to join us to talk about the upcoming Walk to End Alzheimer's. As I mentioned, well, you'll know all about my team by the end of it. I'll have it up on screen. If you'd be kind enough, we'd love to have you to donate. Proud to be a part of it last year. You can find out more coming up in the next segment. Tomorrow on the program, we're going to find out about the Wine Glass Marathon. Monday, we're going to talk about Rotary and their Oktoberfest event coming up. Boy, we're busy. And as I said, if you go to Hesselson's, and why wouldn't you? But if you go to Hesselson's tent sale, I wouldn't miss it. Let me know how you do. I want to hear how it all goes, how you get your Christmas shopping done. All right, we got to take a short break. Coming up next, Alzheimer's Association. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Aiken. We are broadcasting from the Hesselson studio, and in the studio this morning, it's that time of year. It's the Walk to End Alzheimer's. Thanks so much for being on the program.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
We've got a lot to talk about. So last year was my first Walk to End Alzheimer's, and I would suggest anybody gets involved in this. Is it too late to get involved?
Not at all.
Okay.
People can still sign up online at the Alzheimer's Association website. You just search by zip code for the Elmira Walk, 14905, or show up day of around 9 o'clock. You can register on site.
Okay.
Love to have everybody there this year.
So this is different than last year's. Last year it was at the track, but this year maybe you want to make the big announcement?
Yeah, so this year we're back at Eldridge Park in Elmira. The walk had been there for quite a few years before it moved up to Watkins Glen, so a lot of our Elmira folks are really excited about it being back, and I'm definitely excited, even though this will be my first walk this year. I grew up in Elmira, and I love the park, so.
Right. And I was surprised last year, just the kind of the camaraderie around these events. I didn't know what it would be like, because I was stuck in my head like it was a race. Does that make sense? You're thinking, it's not really a competition. It's all in fun.
No, not at all. It's really, to get people out, and a big part of it, quite frankly, is to surround the individuals and family members that are either caring for someone with Alzheimer's with that show of support, and the spirit is just amazing at these events.
It really is. When did you first get involved in what is an amazing organization, End Alzheimer's?
I've been involved for 7 years since I moved to the area. Got involved early on. In the last 3 years, I've been the chairman of the volunteer chairman of the event, and I can't think of a better use of my time and kind of stewardship.
Yeah. And you said this is going to be your first walk.
Yeah.
Tell us about how you got involved.
So I actually started in June this
Okay.
year. So I was moving around into new roles, and when I was looking, I was really thinking about organizations that have strong missions and use their resources for research and supporting their communities. This is actually when I first learned that the Rochester chapter of the association covers Chemung and Steuben County. It was just super exciting to move back into my hometown, work with people I know. So, yeah.
So how is the planning process going from your perspective? Because it's your first one. Is it a lot of stress?
Yeah, but that's.
Oh, that was matter of fact.
But like anything like this, you're dealing with a lot of people, really passionate people. But I have such incredible volunteers, like Ken and everyone else on our committee, who have been involved with the walk for so long. So they're giving me a lot of knowledge. So definitely easing that stress.
What was it that drew you to the organization in general, the Alzheimer's Association?
Yeah, so like I said, I was really considering organizations with strong missions who are providing care to our communities. I've had several loved ones die of different forms of Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia.
So this is a perfect organization to get in because they are so passionate. That's one thing I learned, again, brand new, to get all the information that they sent me. It's wonderful. It's got to be a lot of work, but it's so important to spread the message. So for people that haven't participated in this in the past, what's a typical day look like?
Typical day, hopefully the weather will be as good as it's going to be this weekend. Show up 9 o'clock or a little before. Get registered if you haven't already done that online. If you have registered online, just check in and just enjoy the day. The walk is very short. It's just around there's two options, a little bit longer around the park at Eldridge and a little shorter walk for folks that may have some mobility challenges. And again, it's not about the walk. It's not about that activity, although that's one of the things that can help prevent Alzheimer's is activity and exercise and other things. So again, it's all about imparting some of that knowledge and getting people there, supporting the folks that are fighting this battle.
Well, the opening ceremony begins at 10 a.m., and I think that was such a moving part of last year, having that opening ceremony, and kind of it puts into perspective what you're doing this for.
Yeah.
Is that what, I mean, that's probably why it's so important to the overall day.
Yeah, I think a big part of this event in the Alzheimer's Association in general is the why, and everybody has a why. And if you don't have a personal why now, not to delve into too many statistics, but 1 in 3 Americans will die with some form of Alzheimer's.
Wow.
I mean, that's a staggering statistic. Another one is that at age 45, the chance of developing Alzheimer's at some time in your lifetime for a man is 1 in 10. For a woman, it's 1 in 5.
Wow.
And for a woman of color, it's even a greater percentage. So it's not somebody else's disease. It's something that will affect every one of us indirectly or unfortunately directly at some point in our life if we don't continue to support the organization and move towards a cure. And we are closer to that than ever.
And that was such a powerful part of the walk last year, and I'm sure this year as well, when people are telling you why they're doing the walking, whether it's a team name or I know there's a part on the website, why are you doing this? And people, vulnerable in many ways, but sharing why they're there. It's not just to go out at Eldridge Park for a nice walk in the park, right?
Yeah.
It's such an amazing event. So if someone wants to start a team, what do they know? What does your participation look like?
So participants, you can go to our website. You can certainly register as an individual, or you can start a team. That could be anything from 3 to 30 people. Registration is completely free. Of course, we encourage donations, but that is so important to the visibility of our mission as well, is to have a ton of people at the walk coming together. So yeah, they can go to our website, they can start a team. We actually, asking if it's too late, we get a ton of people these last few weeks before the walk registering now, or registering day.
Well, because October snuck up on everyone.
Yeah.
So no one expects it to be next Saturday, October 11th. It's hard to believe. So I've got to do one thing because I'm going to be in the walk, so I've got to make sure to put a plug in for me. That's my donation website. Frank Acom is one word. And then since I'm on camera, I got to show you guys. Look, I saved it from last year.
Awesome.
Oh.
My medal. So I was going to wear it during the whole interview, but I thought that would look kind of hokey.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually looking at mine this morning, with the ones that I have hanging up my bedroom, and it just is a constant reminder of how important this is. And we really do appreciate you, Frank,
Absolutely.
for forming that team. And I think you got a caller that called in right after the broadcast and made
it was
sizable
huge
donation.
A couple of them, and
we really appreciate
that's why I put the website up on the screen. But yes, I can't thank enough of the people that watched the show and said, you know what, we know that this is a great cause and we want to donate. Do you have any before we go, two things, is there anybody you'd like to thank when it comes to sponsor wise?
Yeah, of course. Hilliard is our presenting sponsor once again this year. Also, just thank Arnett Health, Guthrie, Care First, Chemung Canal Trust Company, Bethany Village. All of our volunteers, we have in-kind donors too, providing snacks and breakfast for our champions this year. Eldridge Park, everyone in Elmira, our community, everyone who shows up for this.
How many volunteers does it take to run this successfully?
So for us, we're looking anywhere between 30 to 40. That's another thing. If you're interested in signing up to be a volunteer, you can show up the morning and I will point you in the right direction, but certainly reaching out to me beforehand is a huge help. We're going to have students from LECOM helping us this year, volunteering, and several other groups that were teams are actually going to be volunteering.
So it's such a community effort.
Oh,
I think the community rallies around this because they realize what an amazing organization it is. And you know how sometimes you hear about these events and they can't get the volunteers and they're struggling. People here walked on Alzheimer's and they want to sign up. So here's a big question. I don't think it's come up yet, and I apologize if it has. What's this year's goal?
This year's goal is $100,000. We are about halfway there right now.
I'm going to put up my website then again while we talk.
And it sounds like a really big number, but when you look at the services and all of the constituents that we have and we're supporting right now, that is how we provide care. That's how we can continue to advocate at the local, state, and federal level. Every single walk has these goals so we can continue to do this work and grow this work. So.
Well, thank you so much for being on the program. Best of luck. I will see you there, of course. I know I'm looking forward to it. And if there's anything from now until October 11th that you want to let me know or we can keep promoting it, please let me.
Yeah.
Okay. And congratulations on your new job.
Thank you so much.
We'll see you next year, both of you. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Thanks, Frank.
Donate now. All right. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox. Stay with us. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. That's our Frankly Speaking roof cam brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We have so many comments to get to. Thank you again to our friends from the Alzheimer's Association. If you'd like to donate to our team here, we are proud to be a part of that organization and the Walk to End Alzheimer's coming up next weekend. Not too late to be a team yourself, but it's so much easier just to donate to me and not be a part of a team. How's that? You'll be a part of my team in my heart. How's that? All right, stay. Oh, no, not stay with. That's what I'm talking about. I'm so distracted because we have so many comments coming in. Comment from a viewer. I know someone who works in social services in Tompkins County. They just gave illegal Medicare. Okay, I did not heard that, but when you mentioned Tompkins County, nothing is off the table, so everything seems plausible, so I appreciate that. Comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. I believe the shutdown could last for quite a while. The media seems to only have a 2-day attention span before it moves on to the next OMG. 1 minute after it does reopen, the media will yell squirrel. Another day in the life of the American media. Yes, I was actually surprised. There was still a lot of coverage on day 2, meaning today. But yesterday was apocalypse now. It's the end of the world. And today it's a little more of the I don't know, the speculation, but not the kind of coverage you expected. So I appreciate your point. Comment from Ken. Since the Democrats and the legacy media are in lockstep with Democrat leadership, which seems to be mostly the far left of the party, they don't have to make sense of what they try to push on the people. They think everyone floods the zone, all with the same talking points. They will at least get the sheeple on their side. Reinstating the COVID funding increase isn't for the people. It's to keep their future voters on their side, fund their special interest groups, and start getting their kickbacks again. Thank you very much, Ken. This is how desperate the optics have become. Chuck Schumer knows in his heart this is not a good thing. We've seen how many times in the past he's talked about not having a government shutdown. They've showed his hypocrisy even on major outlets that you wouldn't normally expect it from. He's so desperate now, though, because he needs to be a part of the resistance. I think it's more than just the fear of an AOC primary, though. I think that's part of it. But I think overall, his poll numbers are down. which would mean his fundraising is down. It also cost him a lot in his book. He had the left turning on him. That is not good for Chuck Schumer. So he wants that quote-unquote popularity back, that attention back. And also he's being called old, that he can't be the face of the resistance because he doesn't get it anymore. He's doing it the old way. So he has to prove that he is a part of that resistance. He's young, hip. He wants that money coming in. That's what he has to prove. It's gotten so bad that he called out the New York Times, which you could easily label as the far left New York Times. He said it's biased due to their poll revealing that a majority of Americans were against the Democrats' push to shut down the government. We brought you that poll yesterday, the New York Times. We were shocked at the poll that they actually had the audacity to be straightforward and not blame the Republicans. So this is what Chuck Schumer said. This was shortly after 6:30 p.m. yesterday, or excuse me, 6:30 before the government shutdown. He said, now I know the leader is going to show a poll that says the Democrats will be blamed for the shutdown. There are many more polls that show Republicans are blamed. The question in that poll is biased. Biased. It's in the New York Times, but it's biased. That's when he got cut off by fellow senators reacting, booing, laughing, thinking it's hilarious that he could, out of all the sweetheart coverage him and Democrats have gone through the years, the New York Times, I don't think too many people would deny the fact that they're biased towards Democrats. He's suggesting they're biased against Democrats, the New York Times. That's true, he said. I don't always believe in the New York Times. You can be sure of that. Neither do you. Boy, you're in a bad place if you're Chuck Schumer and you're blaming the New York Times for a bias against his party. PBS on PBS NewsHour, co-host Jeff Bennett said the vice president also said today that Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi for years have made that point, that you don't shut the government down over policy disagreements. I have covered enough government shutdowns to know that he's not wrong about that. Why do Democrats see this moment different? So he admits that Schumer has said you don't shut down the government over policy squabbles. Even I know that doesn't sound like a huge win, but that's a very big win to have PBS of all places calling that out. But on the News Nation's The Hill, Representative Henry Cuellar, Democrat from Texas, said that Chuck Schumer, quote, needs to show something to his base. But there are legitimate policy issues around health care with the government shutdown that he has and thinks Schumer does as well. He said, well, I think that's a question he needs to answer. But, well, we saw what happened last time where he worked this out. So I think he needs to show something to his base. So we have a government shutdown going on right now just so Chuck Schumer can show his base that he is sufficiently a part of the resistance or part of the far left. And if you listen to some, such as Speaker Johnson and others saying that he's scared of a primary from AOC. Now, Hakeem Jeffries was on PBS NewsHour. He said, well, Democrats actually are in the minority in the House and the Senate. And, of course, Donald Trump is the president. And what Republicans have consistently done through their time in office, they passed this one big ugly bill on a party line vote. They're going to keep trying to push that, aren't they? The one big ugly bill. Okay. On a party line vote, use the reconciliation process to be able to accomplish their objectives. Largest cut to Medicaid in American history. Stealing food from the mouths of hungry children and seniors and veterans. And all of this, of course, was done so they could reward their billionaire donors with massive tax breaks. If they found a way to do that and include more than $3 trillion in additional debt, potentially driving this country towards bankruptcy and certainly complicating the fiscal health of our country for decades to come, of course, they may be able to find a way with their complete control of government to reach a spending agreement, but they're uninterested. They're uninterested. So he's doing like the news report that I brought to your attention yesterday. He is trying to confuse you, to hope that you're not paying attention by saying, well, the Republicans have the majority in both the House and Senate. We know that in the Senate they have to hit the 60 mark to break that filibuster. They, of course, Republicans not at the 60 mark. So, again, that is a clear example of them trying to mislead you, trying to confuse you. But Newt Gingrich, full disclosure, I had a nice conversation with Newt Gingrich a couple of years ago on the radio version of this program. But Newt Gingrich, it's always interesting to see what he has to say with something like this, as he was the House Speaker, of course. He said, this is a game that they play, but this is different this time. This is normally a clean, continuing resolution everybody would go along with that keeps spending at its current levels while they negotiate out, keeping the government open, new budgets, etc. This is a different tactic because this is not your old Democratic Party. Look, the simplest way to describe it is this is insanity. We know from the work we do at America's New Majority Project that there are two things that American people feel about this shutdown. One, they do not want increased spending. Two, they do not want the government closed. So what do you have? You have the Schumer shutdown, where Chuck gets up and says, I'm going to close the government to get more money. Now, that means he's on the wrong side of both issues. This is not easy, but it hit me. I know you have been a New Yorker, so I hope you won't be offended. But it hit me talking earlier today. You have this weird moment where both the House leader and the Senate leader are from New York City. A city so liberal, it's about to elect a big government socialist mayor who you could legitimately call a communist. Their world is all about these weird left-wingers. Now you go west of the Hudson and you get, for example, to South Dakota with the Senate Majority Leader Thune. You go to Louisiana with the Speaker of the House Johnson. They're different worlds. And I think literally Schumer and Jeffries are just totally out of touch with America. And a good point there, playing to the policies that will get them elected in far left New York City. Very interesting. All right, we got to take a short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio. A couple of comments from viewers. Ken writes in, as AOC stated, and I'm paraphrasing, if anyone wants the government reopened, they need to meet with her in her office. Yeah, she's a kingmaker. She's got a lot of power. You're right. Comment from a different viewer. And don't forget the people of New York City who told farmers that they need to limit the size of their herds to eliminate methane. You're right. That is what Newt Gingrich is speaking to there. That is and remember, those are the same voters that are going for Mamadani. They, meaning Schumer and Jeffries, need that vote too. And if they don't show like they're doing enough with the resistance and with the far left, it's going to cost them their job, and they know it. All right. Where was this? This is coming from the Telegraph. Dan McLaughlin. He says Democrats are talking themselves into forcing a government shutdown. So this was written right before the government shutdown. But they can't seem to agree on why. And what the argument that Mr. McLaughlin makes is that Democrats are turning themselves into the enemies of democracy. The problem of Schumer's message, however, is that holding out for more Medicaid spending is the opposite of standing up for democracy. Rather than shutting down the government over unilateral executive actions or presidential refusal to spend money authorized by Congress, Schumer is trying to undo the biggest thing passed by a Republican Congress. He's trying to use leverage to win a victory he didn't have the votes to get. It completely contradicts the Democrats' theme that they're the ones standing up for Congress and representative government. Schumer can speak all that he wants, but money talks. So long as his key demand is for more Medicaid money, voters are apt to see through all of his slogans about democracy. So it's actually creating a bigger, more troubling messaging issue for them in the future. Lisa McClain says the government shutdown is Democrats' political weapon against American families. Our proposal is simple. Keep the government open while we finish the job. No gimmicks, no games, just responsible governing. It's time for Democrats to stop playing politics, but put America first and join Republicans in voting to keep the government open. Now, Lisa McClain represents 119th, or is in the House of Representatives, in the 9th Congressional District of Michigan. Now, Senator Elizabeth Warren was on MSNBC, and she says, to show you where the rhetoric is headed in the kind of the desperate attempt to remessage this, that, quote, people are going to die if Democrats give up on the shutdown. Wow. Okay. I see we're toning down the rhetoric. Well, let's just add to the rhetoric. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass suggests the Trump administration wants to go into inner cities and, quote, shoot people. Kamala Harris told an audience on her book tour that it's time to, quote, rise up. And then you get the very, very, very troubling poll coming out of NPR that said 3 in 10 people now say that Americans may have to resort to violence to get the country back on track. 3 out of 10. Now take it with a grain of salt because it's coming from NPR PBS that has historically a bias. Now, a strong majority disagree with that, but 30% who now say violence may be necessary is up 11 points since April of 2024. Wow. And you tie that all in with the rhetoric. All right, we're going to wrap up today's edition of Frankly Speaking. When we return, get those last-second comments in, and we'll be right back. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Comment from a viewer. Good morning, Frank. Good morning. Steve here. Oh, hey, Steve. Obamacare in a nutshell. 10 years ago, employer cost for employees' health care was around $13,000. As of last year, it was up over $24,000. That is per person. The average family health insurance premium for employers has risen by 24% over the last 5 years as of 2024. With an average annual increase of 7% in 2024. A full 10-year figure is not explicitly provided, but a KFF survey shows the average total family premium rose by 52% in the past decade, from 2014 to 2024. Tell us, the American people, where this was good in any way, shape, or form. Thank you, Steve. Quickly, don't forget, I know we've been mentioning all morning long, but the breaking story, you should report Governor Hochul's inflation refund checks on your taxes. So when they start coming in the mail, make sure you put the little stub beside so you don't forget next year to pay your taxes on your huge windfall of $200 for a single, $400 for a family. The House GOP are asking RFK Jr., Dr. Oz, if Andrew Cuomo's nursing home order broke COVID safety rules. They have sent a letter that was drafted by Congressman Mike Lawler saying more than 15,000 New York nursing home residents died of COVID during the early part of the pandemic. We just passed the grim 5-year anniversary of New York's infamous March 25th, 2020 directive, which forced ill-prepared nursing homes to accept 9,056 COVID-19 patients over a 6-week period. We are seeking a written determination from your agencies as to whether the New York State Department of Health's March 25th directive was in compliance with Centers for Medicare and Medicaid and Centers for Disease Control guidance. It is also being signed on by Elise Stefanik, Claudia Tenney, Andrea Garbarino, and Nick LaLota. All right, the mayor's race, Mandami, Cuomo, Sliwa, seeking to reintroduce themselves, made a big ad buy increase in spending in New York City. Mamdani, who's been getting a lot of criticism for not apologizing to what he said in the past to the NYPD, is now claiming that he's having personal conversations with individual officers to apologize. Oh, how about this for a headline? Syracuse.com writes, New York's ban on gas equipment in new homes is coming soon. Are we ready for this revolution? That does it for today's. Are you ready for that revolution? That does it for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Thank you to the representatives, our good friends from the Alzheimer's Association, for being in on the program. Next weekend, already the Walk to End Alzheimer's in Eldridge Park. You can find out more at their website, or you can donate right there to the walk. We would really appreciate it. Try to do what we did last year, which was so amazing because of viewers like you. There we are. There's our award. All right. Join us tomorrow morning starting at 6 a.m. Our guest, we're going to be talking about what else? The Wine Glass Marathon coming up this weekend on Marcus Street in the Gaffer District. That does it. Join us tomorrow morning. I look forward to it already. This has been Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox.